Welcome to Work Safe Communicators Toolbox Safety Meeting, the new way to start a safe day. Here's your host and certified safety trainer, Kat Brandon.
Kat Brandon here with your Toolbox Safety Meeting. The topic for today is hazardous communication. SARA, or the Superfund Amendment Reauthorization Act of 1986, mandated guides and regulations for us to teach HAZCOM, that's the acronym for hazardous communication, to members of our workplace and members of our community. Just what is hazardous communication? It's your right to know what are the hazards that you're going to be dealing with on the job and off the job. What are hazards of the workplace? Well, chemical hazards cause two different types of effects: physical effects and health effects. What is a physical health effect? That's a hazard that generates problems for you as a member of our workplace and community outside the body, such as flammability of a chemical, fires, and so on. Health effects causes problems inside the body, such as chemical exposures that cause leukemia and so on. Employee training is very vital to learn about these physical and health effects. Chemical exposures cause these effects if you're not aware of the hazards of the chemical. How do we teach hazardous communication? Through lectures, video presentations, warning signs, and warning labels telling you of the hazards. Most workers and members of our community just don't take the time to read a warning sign. They take them for granted. They never stop and read a warning label when they're using a chemical or purchasing that chemical at your local hardware store. Some more information about chemical hazards is our MSDS. What is an MSDS? Material Safety Data Sheet. That material safety data sheet gives us vital information about the hazards of that chemical. It, for one, tells us what the chemical is. It tells us about the chemical makeup, just what is the hazard made of, the chemical components. It gives us toxicity as far as acute health effects and chronic long-term health effects. It also gives us information of what exposures can we have to that chemical. We have two different types of exposures. One, based on an 8-hour day, time-weighted average, is called the TLV. That's the threshold limit value. Most hazards we can be exposed to safely for 8 hours a day, up to 40 hours in a work week. Another exposure that we have on the MSDS is the short-term exposure limit, or that PEL, the permissible exposure limit. And that can be as short as 15 minutes exposure in a 24-hour period. And it is up to us as members of our workplace and members of our community to take this information and learn about it so we're not exposed to these chemical hazards. The MSDS also gives us information about fires. Is that material explosive or not? And if it is flammable, how are we going to extinguish that fire? If we're exposed to that chemical, it gives us PPE instructions, or how to use and select personal protective equipment. If we are exposed to that hazard, it's also going to give us decontamination procedures. How are we going to clean ourselves up before we leave the workplace? The information on the MSDS, once again, is very vital to our operation as a member of our workplace and community. This concludes our safety meeting on hazardous communication. Until next time, be safe and work safe.